Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So we need to talk about this situation with the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer, because things have taken a very sour turn for the Star Wars fandom.
Things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
After the trailer dropped, I posted my breakdown, my reaction, and then I went on social media, and I realized, ooh, Star Wars fans are not happy. The overall fan reaction was rather mixed. There are definitely fans saying they can't wait for the next chapter of this story, and they're excited to see Din and Grogu's return. But by and large, the majority of reactions I've seen are either apathetic or negative. I kind of expected fans to respond in a pretty meh kind of way to this, but the responses have been absolutely insane. And if you're Lucasfilm seeing all of this, you might be a bit worried. I've never seen so many fans who've just completely checked out, or who are just not impressed in the slightest. Now, one of the big reasons for this reaction is The Mandalorian Season 3. It's generally considered the lowest point for the TV show, and the overall sentiment seems to be that Lucasfilm really needs to pull something massive out of the hat to get Star Wars fans back on board. They need to change the formula, do something new and exciting, and until then, Star Wars fans are going to keep reacting in the same kinds of ways. And so that's the reason people on social media saw this and they said, this is not the way, this ain't it. So in terms of the criticisms, fans pointed out the bizarre lack of dialogue, the bland feel of the trailer, which had a confusing blend of 80s vibes, while also doing that early 2000s thing, where you showcase the movie with different shots and there isn't too much talking. Not to mention the trailer tells us absolutely nothing about the plot. And then there are those who say that because this movie is essentially a reboot, the return of Mando and Grogu as a main cinematic event isn't as impressive as it would have been during the peak of Grogu hype. They're putting out this movie 4 years too late, and it's not like Lucasfilm has the excuse that they planned this years ago. The decision to not make Season 4 came just before it was going to go into production. Now look, I do happen to agree with most of these criticisms, but as I'm sure you know, I had a far more positive take than most, and it wasn't until I posted my reaction, then went on social media to see what fans were saying, that I realized that my opinion is in the minority. One of my tweets even featured in an Eckhart's Ladder video, and so I just want to explain my rationale, tell you where I'm coming from, and just explain why I had the reaction I did. And the reason, I still maintain, the trailer is better than I expected. So if you've been watching me since the very first rumours that we were getting a Mandalorian movie, then you know that most of the things we've heard about it kind of suck. I honestly don't mean to sound negative, but oh my goodness, some of the rumours and leaks are so confusing and bizarre. It makes you wonder how they went from seasons 1, 2 and 3 to this, which just sounds like a mishmash of different missions. So all I've been hearing for the last 9 months, from people I know, from my sources, from reliable scoopers, is how much of a letdown this film is going to be, and that we shouldn't expect much. It's also why I keep saying I wish Starfighter came first. So as you can imagine, when the trailer finally dropped, I went into it with a very different mindset to your average casual Star Wars fan, especially those who've not been in the loop. I wasn't expecting some kind of saga-changing story. I knew this movie was going to be whimsical, fun, silly, but very self-contained. From that perspective, which is going in with caution, with an understanding of what Lucasfilm is trying to achieve, that this movie is not Season 4 but a bridge between the third season and whatever's going to come after it, then to be honest, I was actually impressed. I was expecting so much worse. Now I'm sorry to do the rhetorical questions thing, but is this movie going to revive the franchise? Honestly, no. Is it going to get Star Wars fans back in cinemas? Maybe make Disney a bit of money on merchandise? Probably, depending on what the marketing looks like a few months from now. Because what a lot of fans are forgetting is this is just a teaser trailer. They're gonna do some TV spots, and then there will be a long final trailer. And if the folks over at Lucasfilm are intelligent, they would put all of the marketing weight on the fun aspect of this film. Forget everything else. Serious storylines, the Remnant versus the New Republic. If you're talking about the action, and you're talking about the fun, the Anzellans and Grogu, this teaser kind of nailed it. So they need to make the whimsy the selling point. Look, if we're being realistic, and we're not talking about those who watch every TV show, we're not talking about you and me. The Rise of Skywalker was the last Star Wars film people remember, the last one they paid to go and see, and the last one they walked away from. Regardless of what you think of it, that movie had all the pressure in the world to wrap up a saga that began in 1977. For my taste, it didn't stick the landing, but it took itself very seriously. And so from that perspective, I understand Lucasfilm's logic to launch their first Star Wars movie of the 2020s and have it be something light-hearted, what we call safe. But at the same time, like I said, they've left it quite late. If The Mandalorian had a movie back in 2021, 2022, it probably would have had a much higher box office than what I assume this is gonna get. In 2026, after one of the longest breaks for Star Wars content in ages, is it gonna pay off for Disney when they're putting out a movie about characters who peaked 5 years ago? And it's safe to say plenty of fans who initially loved Mando have lost all interest. I'm seeing these reactions online. I know it's very easy to get sucked up into the doom and gloom, but it's no joke when the majority of things you're seeing is hate for a movie. Even from people who I know love the first 2 seasons. You know the situation is bad. I don't blame fans who feel this way. I don't blame fans who feel nothing after this trailer. Those who say it's corporate slop, I get it. I am in a place with Star Wars where I'm always hoping for the best. You guys know I'm one of the more positive channels on YouTube, but it doesn't mean I don't feel frustration. I'm going in cautiously optimistic, but I've just come to terms with the fact that until Star Wars consistently makes things on the level of Andor, then the franchise is never going to return to the prominence it once experienced. So these days, I just take things for what they are. For me personally, the most important project is Ahsoka Season 2. If they mess that up and it ends up sucking, they ruin Anakin's character or Baylan or Shin, I don't know guys, that's going to be a really hard blow. I was really disappointed after The Acolyte, and to be honest, I've not fully recovered. My faith has certainly been shaken, but I love George Lucas' Star Wars way too much to ever walk away. If one day worse comes to worse, we will always have the original trilogy, and if you're a fan of it like I am, the prequel trilogy. Nothing Disney could ever do, or dream of doing, is ever going to ruin those for me. So for those people who tell me you don't talk about Star Wars the way you used to, or people tell me I've changed, people say I'm way more negative, I just think it comes to a point where you just feel a bit burnt out from all of it. When you get disappointed so often for projects you were so excited about, it does take a toll. So even though I'm someone who enjoyed this trailer, I 100% see the other side of the coin. And if I knew nothing about the leaks, then I too would be a bit disappointed. So let's take a look at some social media reactions. So this first person is expressing the opinion that the film looks exactly like the TV show, and many others have asked the question, so what's the point? They say, "Bravo Jon Favreau, you made the first ugly looking Star Wars movie after a 48-year streak. Incredible achievement. I would say the colouring and the saturation are my criticisms of the visuals, but I thought there were a couple of really cool cinematic shots. If you compare this to the saga itself, even episodes 7, 8 and 9 look more impressive. Say what you will about the way they handled Luke and the overall story, the sequel trilogy was stunning. And I've actually seen quite a few accounts say that they miss the sequel trilogy watching this. This person says, I miss Rey. Ooh, that is pretty damning. It took the Mando movie trailer for folks to rethink the sequels and start saying nice things. Yeah, the shift is pretty crazy. Then there are those who think the reason we're getting a movie like this is because Star Wars fans shot down ambitious stories like Episode 8. This person writes, Rian Johnson wrote the word laser sword in a script, and now we have this. Evidently that is referencing Luke in The Last Jedi when he says laser sword instead of lightsaber, but he said it in a mocking way. I remember there was a lot of dissent. There were fans who couldn't stand him saying that. So I guess there's an argument to be made that with a film like this, Lucasfilm is playing it safe, because they don't want to risk backlash or a box office flop. This person writes, I am a Star Wars fanatic. I yearn for more Star Wars movies. I miss them. I'm a fan of The Mandalorian. So why didn't The Mandalorian and Grogu trailer get me super excited? This goes back to what I was saying, that there were fans who felt nothing and who said it just felt corporate. Today, for the first time ever, I heard the word Grogu slop. But now, my friends, I turn it over to you. What did you guys think? Did the trailer blow you away? Or was it average? Maybe you hated it? Share your thoughts in the comments down below.